Do you remember what we found in Lalibela today? We are going to go even further than before. We are going to go high into the mountains of northern Ethiopia. It is one of the most important pilgrimage places of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. These churches, supposedly carved into the rock, were built during the 25-year reign of King Lalibela, supposedly, where we are also told that they were built with more than a little help from the angels, where archaeologists question miracles. Again, we have shown a lot of evidence that these structures are most likely not carved out of solid rock, and they were most likely constructed and have since turned into this appearance, especially when we are told that these churches at Lalibela also form interconnecting complexes, tunnel systems. Again, something that we have shown all over the world, this time within the solid rock formation. And it goes on to say, church tradition recognizes the huge task represented by the cutting of these churches and their associated trenches, passages, and tunnels. On this channel, we suggest that there was a civilization before us that held incredible technology that we are being given back today very slowly. A civilization that was able to construct incredible structures all over the world. Structures that we are still able to go inside of. They held tools that would blow our minds today. As the paragraph continues on, we read, it explains the completion of the excavation during the reign of a single king by attributing much of the work to angels, who, after the workmen had downed tools for the day, came in on the night shift and worked twice as fast as the human workers had done. This story is suggesting that angels came down and helped humans construct the palaces around the world. Again, this is all research, and you are free to think whatever you'd like. But when I find something that possibly opens even more doors for us, possibly shows us the truth, possibly shows us how these palaces got here so fast in every single continent in the world, I am not holding that information back. Angels coming in and helping humans complete palaces. This is the narrative. This is the story. Helping them complete palaces that last forever. Which brings up another question. If this is true, where are we really? Are these angels still here? Or are we in a little season? A season that is not for us. It is very interesting at the very minimum. At 8,000 feet on the central plateau of Ethiopia stands 11 churches, each supposedly carved from a single gigantic block of stone, where not much is known about who built them or why. Again, all supposedly constructed by angels. The site of the 11 churches covers about 62 acres, is divided by a stream, the River of Jordan, the largest church, covering around 8,000 square feet, with each being about 4 stories tall. Now this place is pretty important to the people of this location, where people take their children and walk from their farms nearly 100 miles away. A journey of 3 days, just to give this all a little perspective, where we can see that the US is very interested in all of this and is over there. When we are told Simon W. is a master stonemason, also with this group that you can all see right here, or originally known as this group, and I'll put it on the screen, a US-based charity that preserves some of humankind's great achievements. And we all know about restoration and repair work by our civilization, where Simon W. has repaired European cathedrals and Roman antiquities. Where do any of us really want this guy near this site? You tell me. And it goes on to say that Lalibela is more complicated because of the sincere belief that angels worked this stone. It's very interesting. Does this mean that they cannot touch this location because the people are standing up for it? And the truth of this location is known among the people, that angels helped in the construction, where they were not able to just come in and make up some ridiculous narrative like they do all over the world, saying that the master prisoners were responsible for the work, even though they had zero training. And then they hired a guy with his son, and then it burns down. yet it's still here with no fire damage. And we've seen this in every single continent. This is much deeper than I expected this to go. But again, if I find something in this research, keys, that could unlock more for us and take this research even further, I know that it's important to share it, and I'm going to do it. Scott P. asked Simon W. Simon, you can't actually cut this stone in order to fit a new piece in, because the stone you would be cutting is sacred. And Simon W. replied, yeah, that was one of the first big issues that I came across. An issue. In his words, this is an issue. An issue is that he cannot cut the sacred stone. This is what he wants to do. He wants to cut the sacred stone and replace it with new ones. Very interesting. When it has been there for centuries, and we all know that this does not need our help. And he continues on to say, if we ever had to drill a hole in it. And who is this Simon W? Who is this group that comes into these old world structures and supposedly renovates them? I'll be looking into that very soon. But first, I'm going to continue on with this conversation because he says that this is so sacred that the priests collect the dust. And he says he's already resurrected the cross in the window. Scott says, this cross wasn't here. And Simon said, it was not. It was completely gone. So they've already added things and admitted it. Attempts, in my opinion, to change its narrative. He says that he hollowed out the back of the cross shape that they were inserting. They also say that our civilization has built ugly gas station roofs to cover this extraordinary site. Again, this is all research. It is all things to think about and things that point us in the right direction to try and find the truth about our past, especially when it has a very real, much more probable possibility of being 100% true than what we have been told all of our lives. In this article, we are all told that Simon W. was connected with a group, the group being called this, a US-based charity that preserves some of humankind's great achievements, a group that always seems to be involved, a group that was there right after the Denmark Borsen building's fire in April 2024 that we've been talking about, the same group involved in the reconstruction project of the Notre Dame of Paris. With this group in countries that we can read here, where the nonprofit group is set to fund projects responding to climate change. An interesting group to say the least. Hopefully they really are helping the world, and hopefully they can be fully trusted. And hopefully it's all just one big coincidence that they are situated in these sites that hold incredible keys to our hidden history. Welcome to episode 75 of My Lunch Break. I hope you're all having a great day. And if you're new, welcome. And I want to thank all of our sponsors over on Patreon. Thank you to FlatEarthDave.com. You can check out his app. I'll put the link in the description, and you can use my referral code, MLB. He also has My Lunch Break on the homeschool section of the app, which is really cool. Thank you to Rebecca K., Don Gaston, Christopher Arietta, The Lady Lacey Show, David and Sherry Ferguson, Edwin Johnson, Chuck Templeton, Joy Lee, PNR, Stephanie Nolan, The Burlesons, Suez KC, Dan Woodall, Dale, DJ Clicktrack, Edward and Brianna, Jacob Law, Jim Ribley and Christine Duggan, Kyle Glascock, Tim Rack, BKTFnews.org, Regna Saturna, Dendries NL, Juana Mesher, Sirius Feline, G Power, Natalie Shippenoff, TheGoldenTeacher.co, Amberson EMC, Blake, HK Sue, Isaac Wright, Melissa Edgar, Biggles, Clayton Lamar, Ultimus Maximus, Noble Task Homestead, John Adams, Easy and Whitney, Roberts O'Zolins, Sarah Fenton, The Crypto Schizo, Rick Tapkey, Ryan and Laney Benner, The Arnolds, 3D6.Space, Attila Power, VKH Bonner, Rod James, Bell's Clarions for God, Forbidden Gecko Love, Justin Grobner Grubb, Leah Strong, Peter Batani, Dakota Dunn, Eric Martinez, Ivan Apoctoli, Jim Bro, Edwin Rice, Helmut, Charles Kruger, Glenn Gunderson, Pacific Crafted, HaggardT-shirts.com, Meta, Jason Hochberg, Marie C, ValleyMedicinals.com, Old World Exploration, Kyle Logan, Bobo, thephoenixart.com, wakeandbakeclothing.com, David and Irene, Michael Dingyu, Michelle Wilson, Patriot Armory, Tom O'Hara, Wayne T, Michael D. Connor, Hen Yardies, William Royal, C3SCOB, Ancient Tallow, Jeffrey Temple, Lil Miss, Lisa Boutwell, Luis Capice, SonyaDane.com, Thad Luop, James Alt, Bucksui, Code Dren, Big Pasty, James Kirk, Jason Prest, Suki Warrior, We the People, Dan McGee, Vince Moreno, Roz Matthews, Shibba Shaba in the Darkness. You guys are all awesome and helping this channel out a lot. Here we are given the Ducal Palace, said to have been constructed in the incredible year of 1454, where they tell us that 250 years after they carved palaces out of stone in Ethiopia, like we have shown today, 250 years later, the solid rock hillside was impregnable to siege, but was problematic for carving out the foundation of the palace. If evolving and advancing was a thing, if it were true, the world would have mastered this after 250 years of advancing, where we begin to see the narrative slip up. The truth is smooth, a lie is all over the place. And we can see this right now. We are also told that restorations were completed and have opened the extensive subterranean network to visitors, tunnel systems. Again, who is conducting this restoration project on an old world structure and blocking it from the public? Wait, not this group again. This group guided officials from the town of Zadar as they undertook emergency repairs. And this is all very interesting. Weird, especially when you see the location of this fund. And I wonder, what all these incredible structures around the world, what were they doing for centuries before this 1965 founding date for this brand new group? The structures must have just been begging for our help. No. Should we just go through and see what other places, out of the kindness of their hearts, have they just gone over to and helped since 1965? To date, this group has worked at more than 500 sites in 91 countries, including many of this group's sites, which could just be another history-loving group. Among highly prominent projects, starting 34 years ago, are many temples, including these two. They've also worked in France, the ghost town of Craco, Italy, many structures in Rome, and of course, going back to episode 60, several sites on Easter Island, various sites in ancient Luxor in Egypt, Lalibela, Ethiopia, Argentina, the ancient Maya city, and so much more. Now, have we located something today of significance? These are the locations that we are also interested in. Every single one of them, which I'm guessing is no coincidence. I guess it's nice to know that we have a group or two that really want to help preserve the buildings that we're all interested in. It's nice to know that they were there on the scene of the fire in Denmark, faster than anyone that was even there restoring the place. And also very strange that this news group titles this "Denmark Endures Its Own Notre Dame Devastation," when we know which group helped repair both structures. We also know that this fire took place on April 16th. You don't find it odd that they are connecting these buildings through the news. You don't find it odd that these two old world structures, they both burned down on April 16th. I'm gonna ask you, do you believe in coincidences? So James A.G., founder of this group, on their website, which I can post on X if you'd like it, we are told, visited Easter Island, the location that we have talked about, connected to possibly the site of the Garden of Eden, the land of Mu. And we also know that there is an Adam and Eve connection located in Ethiopia, which we have just discussed in our last episode, episode 74. When he visited Easter Island in the 1970s, he traveled there at the invitation of the United States Ambassador, Edward K., whom he met shortly before in, you guessed it, Ethiopia, where the newly established WMF was carrying out its very first field project, the conservation of the churches at Lalibela. The exact location that we are told that angels came down to help construct the palace out of pure stone, a palace that they are still interested in to this day. We also know how Chile had taken over the land of Easter Island. We have shown this. And yet again, we have another connection to this, all coming after Colonel Churchward's work, when he was told of the ancient tablets in the Indian temple, about the land of Mu, telling us about Easter Island, when Corey had been the U.S. diplomatic representative in Ethiopia prior to his resignment to, you guessed it, Chile. This is when he contacted the founder of the group that we've been talking about all day today and told him to come and see the country's extraordinary monuments. I just find it incredibly interesting that the place that we have found is possibly the Garden of Eden, is the one location that these founders are so interested in right off the bat, right after their founding date. It's the first thing they do is go to Easter Island and possibly the land of Mu. And then they go to Ethiopia, confirming in my mind that we are looking in the right spot. 100%. Still on their website, they give us a depiction of the size of these structures found at Easter Island in comparison to the size of a human today, where they go on to say, on the heads of some statues was a kind of cylinder that could weigh up to 11 tons, where they don't know what the purpose was, and they say where the significance of these is unclear, where the largest statue measures 21.6 meters in length, or 70.8 feet, and is still attached to the rock in the external quarries, with about 1,000 statues on the island. And we all remember that this site of Easter Island now holds a fire, where the fire causes irreparable damage to famous Moai statues on October 7th, 2022, coming just 3 months after the island was reopened to tourism, after 2 years of closure. So we have a group that is very interesting to say the least, a group that says that they have conserved over 700 sites, which is different than the 500 that we saw from earlier, where it looks like they might have mixed their story up already and raised 300 million and over 400 million leveraged from other agencies. A group that gives us a list of watch sites every 2 years and tells us the new 100 sites that need their help, starting this in August of 1995, with number 15 coming in marked as Chile, Easter Island. By 2000, it had moved up to 9th. A group that gives awards to champions of conservation. A list that has names that looks like they just gave themselves an award. They own the building that this fund is located in. This is like Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, giving himself the MVP award, or giving yourself a birthday card. And of course, Herat, Afghanistan, coming in at number 1, with a cannon here right in the front, where this photo is just bizarre. Just so much destruction to the past civilization's work through bombing and wars. So let's return back to where we started today. Before we do that, let's take a minute and thank all of our badge members, all of our Patreons, and every single subscriber. And thank everybody that likes the video. Because of all of you, this channel is reaching millions of people, growing to more and more people, and showing this research to a bigger and bigger audience every single week. We are also over on Rumble, TikTok, X, and Instagram. So let's go to Jordan and visit the site of Petra, where these doors are obviously not made for people of our size. The step itself, just to get in the place, is like 7 to 10 feet in the air. So either the past civilization was very tall, or they were very good at jumping. Even if these are just windows, they're just not proportionate to our size at all. We have seen a lot of proof that there most likely were a much larger group of people here in the past. And this is just another example of this. This is a site that we are told was built possibly, maybe, it might have been, but we'll never know, possibly, according to the mainstream, as early as the 5th century BC. You know, anywhere from 2222 to 2321 years ago. They've got this date pinned down. Maybe. described as one of the most precious cultural properties of man's cultural heritage. In 2007, Petra was voted one of the new 7 wonders of the world, with 1.1 million people visiting it in 2019 alone, where yet again, you can see that there is so much more to this place than just a wall. Once again, in my opinion of course, looking like a larger structure and simply melted around it, with the front still being exposed, where there are more than one opening yet again. The exact same thing that we saw in the Indian caves. We can see how advanced the previous civilization really was. This is incredible to look at. I can't even imagine going there. There is clear melting here. You can even see in the background that that was an old world palace that is now melted. All of this was, in my opinion, an incredibly advanced civilization living here, with palaces that have been turned into this, where you can go inside them still. These are not naturally forming rocks, all looking very similar to the Great Temple in Egypt. It's very interesting that we have the same sort of thing happening all over the world, as if it were the same exact builders going from place to place, and the ones that are left still here for us to see and go inside of today, and all on that watch list of the group that was created 59 years ago, where it's becoming clear, where we have a lot more to learn, a lot more to uncover. And at this point, I believe it is clear that there are groups being funded to hide our true history from all of us. I think that has been exposed today, and tell us all that they want to preserve the previous civilization's work, structures and sites that have been just fine for centuries and have needed zero help. Or have these structures not been around as long as we're told? And we are just discovering this, discovering that the previous civilization wasn't actually here as far back as we always thought, with something massive happening within the last few hundred years.